Welcome to another episode of Duel Alliance with myself, Alicia Solomon, and Megan Hines, where we discuss the challenge. We are back to discuss episode 9 of season 39, Battle for a New Champion. This week, we got another snitch in the building coming in as a champ, mercenary. It was really awkward to listen to TJ's speech about her because being 1-6 or 1-7, whatever she is, 1-6, if my math is correct. You 1-6. I don't know how you bragging about them stats, but do your thing, Slom. It's your time. Shout out to Melissa. I don't got nothing else. Because when she really was hyping herself up, like, I've done 9 seasons, 6 finals, and 1 win out of 6, you trash.
And we just saw her flop on the USA season in the final, but go off. But we'll get to that mercenary later on in the episode. But we start off with Big T's gone. Melissa is crying over her friend. But the one thing I wanted to ask, why is Olivia so invested in Mariah's dealings? Because they're not, at this point, I don't think they're friends, because that woman is very obsessed and just want to be in the mix.
I'm really not sure why Olivia is worried about Mariah. Like, we saw a couple weeks back when she was having a conversation about Mariah to other people in the house about her relationship with James and her getting closer to James and her being quote unquote with bananas. Let me set the record straight, because I feel like people was giving Mariah a lot of flack this episode about her relationship with bananas back at home and how he's treating, how he felt and all this stuff. At the end of the day, if this was the reverse, Bananas wouldn't give two shits about Mariah's feelings. Like, let's call a spade a spade. I feel like Mariah had every right to be open, to be with whoever she wanted to be with. She was not exclusive with Bananas, to my knowledge. It was honestly just them having a relationship, a friendship with other, stipulations in it, that they were just cool. They were kicking it. If he felt so strongly invested in Mariah, then that should have been his girlfriend. That should have been his A1 day one. It shouldn't have been no room for a margin for her to feel like she needed to do what she did in hooking up with James in the house. So I feel like Mariah is getting a lot of slack for what I don't know. First, she's fine, young, hot, and fabulous. Like, why would she need to be? I don't even know why she was upped up, washed up Bananas to begin with. But that's her choice. Like, do whatever you want to do. But listen, when you fine and young, girl, do your thing. Nobody got time to be worried about 40-year-old, 45-year-old men worried about how they feel and what they not feeling. Pack it up.
Also, the timeline of when she went to shoot the show and when he did House of Villains kind of overlaps. And I feel like if he was feeling heartbroken, why was he in the face of 2 women on House of Villains? I'm gonna leave it at that.
But please, because if y'all are not watching House of Villains, which you should, he had a whole segment singing, whether it was funny or not, and trying to be funny and having a moment. He did have a little scene where he was singing to Corinne. So it's like he was playing the game too. He was playing the TV game. He knows what time it is. I just feel like she's getting this double standard treatment. I just feel like isn't right.
Yeah, because like they think, because of the show, Johnny is the golden boy. So if anything is like harping against him, they're gonna drag it out and make it what it isn't. And it's stupid. It's dumb. That's the only thing that's really holding up this season at this point, aside from like Big T and Melissa, is this, oh, Mariah is quote unquote cheating on Bananas with James. That's it. But at the end of the day, like you said, she's young, hot. She got options. She got enough time on her hands. She can do what that man she wants. And it's her prerogative. And she was accountable for it early in the season. She was accountable for it again in this episode. So hats off to her. And Olivia just needs to. Olivia has been exposed and not be. She's not a good friend. Supposed to be Mariah's friend, and you talking greasy about her behind her back. That's crazy.
Yeah, Olivia is. Listen, I think we've spoken about Olivia's character before and how she is, how her personality is with her friends, and what she picks up and what she doesn't pick up in her friendships. So I think we can already know what type of time it is with Olivia. Just reference for people out there: what someone else eats doesn't make you shit. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. Don't worry about nobody else's pockets, who they fucking, who they not. Like, mind your business at the end of the day. It's not healthy. Like, mind your business.
Yep. And in this case, Olivia was more so worried about what Mariah was doing because it quote unquote affected Mariah's standing in the alliance because Mariah is getting clothes with James and also saying, oh, she wants to protect Zara by proxy. Wasn't Zara out there really wanting to protect her early in the game? And Maurice like, we're not letting anybody else in this. Why are you switching up at this point in the game? When at this point, this whole alliance thing is stupid, like we've been mentioning, because it's only 2 UK people still in the game. So y'all going against the UK people at this point is dumb. But y'all go ahead. So, also, why is Asaf pulling Corey? Because he's using his newfound friendship, I guess, with Melissa and them bonding over being parents as bait because he's like, oh, like we're cool, but I'm not working with you. I'm working with the Americans. I'm not a lone wolf. I'm leading you in like, yeah, we can talk, we can chat about okay, who's saying my name, who's saying your name. However, I'm not really working with you. And he's giving her this guy that he is when he really isn't. And that really like threw me off.
I don't know if it threw me off because I feel like we've seen Asaf and his character kind of play out. And when I say character, I mean like how he is as a person. Like, he's been shady from the jump. I think the whole situation with Corey, he felt so betrayed or whatever because he thought he was his best friend. Like, I feel like Asaf is somewhat delusional, but I think Melissa did have a point in how she felt with Asaf because it was from day one that they had a conversation about their children, and that's how they bonded together being in the house. This didn't come out of nowhere just this week or just last week. Like, this was from day one when they were down in the sand talking about it and getting to know each other. So I do think that Melissa has valid feelings to be upset and offended on how Asaf treated her. But I do think that Asaf needs to be held accountable. I think he's trying to be funny. I'm not sure what's going on with him getting so many confessionals. The Devin clip wasn't funny at all. Like, I just feel like he's trying too hard to be something that he's not. And it just reeks of you wanting to be getting more TV time. And I can do with less TV time with you, honestly.
Yeah, because he's been trying to get back on the show since he did For All the Worlds. And I'm like, you you were like one of the first couple boots. Like we didn't care. So you weren't. I don't know why they called him because we weren't asking for him to come back in the first place. And when he comes back, he's acting like he's some type of mastermind. He's like sneaky and stuff. And I'm like, that's not your game. And you're only here at this point in this game because you're attached to Jay. That's your only actual allegiance. So you could just be quiet and you could also just go because you're going to be the next guy on the chopping block after Kylan. So you can stay where you are for a bit, but you're going to be out soon. Bet that. Because people think, all these people on this season, I think they're like big bads. I'm like, you're not a big bad. You're here for a reason. You don't win anything and you're not smart. So you're trying to put on this front like you are. You're not. So it's just that him just doing that, and then how Kylan did him later on, that had me weak. But we'll get to that. But it's just Asaf is his time is numbered, and it's time for him to go. But also, this has become for the love of Emmanuel, this episode, and throughout the season that we hadn't seen up till now, because this man is cozying up with a vast amount of women in the house, from Raven to Colleen, Olivia, even Melissa a little bit. But this is weird, and all of them know at this point, like, oh yeah, like we're cozying up with him, like it's funny. Is it funny or is it just weird? Because this man has a girlfriend at home.
Well, one, I think it's weird that they're attracted to him, but that's just my eyes. But two, I just think that they all know what type of time it is. They want to be sister wives. That's cool. I just think the worst of it was Colleen, because Colleen swears she psychoanalyzes everybody, but can't psychoanalyze her own life and situation that she's getting herself into. You knew this man had somebody. You decided to still deal with him anyway. I get it. You're in the house for an X amount of time. You're away from what you know at home, whether you have a partner at home that you're dealing with intimately or not. You know, it's always good to have someone in the opposite sex if that's your thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's always good to have that person around you. But I just feel like Colleen was so damn delusional about this whole situation, and she got her feelings hurt. And it's like, if you know you can't fuck him and dump him, essentially, if you know you can't fucking leave him, don't fuck him, girl. Just like, it's all right. You don't have to put on this act or, you know, get yourself involved in something that it shouldn't be. And I think the most concerning was with Raven and Olivia being cuddled up with him at the same time, because we saw later how they had a clip of Raven being cuddled up with him, Olivia sitting on his lap, cuddled up with him as well. And the both of them know the situation that it is with him. So I think that's probably the weirder one. It's just like, why y'all can't find anybody else to be aligned with, or to either find somebody else, take your ass home and bring your rose tour, or just get out of our faces. Because I just feel like that's crazy that y'all choosing Emmanuel and y'all know he has someone back at home. Like, it's not even like it's Michelle, where she got straight up lied to and told that Callum didn't have a girlfriend, but he clearly did, and she was going on with that farce. This is just completely different. And sisters, if you're weak in the knees, stand up, please.
Yeah, because that it's one thing if a man is single when he comes in the house and he decides I'm gonna be with a whole bunch of girls, I get it. But when you come in the house and you have a girlfriend and you are not saying anything about it, and you end up being in the midst of like multiple people, you need to be accountable for that. Like that's gonna show on TV, and it's gonna get back to your significant other one way or another. And on Twitter, Emmanuel was just like not being accountable for it. And I'm like, your person should leave you because you're not a good person. You're a cheater because you let someone on. Granted, Colleen knew what was up, but you're still doing this stuff on TV and thinking that it's not gonna have any repercussions. So good luck to that man, and whatever he has going on. But a cheater on the show, that is bad, no matter what. And that's gonna be a whole other conversation later on in the episode. But we'll get to that. But first, we're gonna get into the daily challenge, which is going to be played in teams. You got teams again, one team of 3 and a lot of pairs, where it's that's not a good combination, because if with how this challenge went, obviously the team of 3 was going to win.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a fair advantage to begin with to have 3 people, but they almost lost, to be honest. If they didn't have stupid people on that other side, like, who don't know how to play a game without cheating and without having help from other people, they could have, the other two people could have won, but they didn't. And I do think that the 3 team advantage shouldn't have been a thing in the first place, because why is it three people? just pick something else, get another challenge, or make it a way that it's all even, and so that it can all be fair, because I just think that you're clearly giving them advantage to begin with.
Yeah, because if anything, it could have been a different kind of challenge where a guy. Because I think at this point, I think it was still is this an extra. Wait, is it extra woman or extra guy?
I'm thinking it's an extra woman because it was a woman's elimination. So
Okay, so a guy could have gone twice if it was going to be a paired situation in a different type of challenge. Because obviously, with each event, having three hands is better than two. So it was just very odd and very confusing because this was mostly a sweep for them until that very end. But this challenge that they're playing, it is called Doomsticks, where, like I said, it's going to be played in teams of either 2 or 3, and they'll compete in up to 3 events. In the first 2 events, the last place teams are eliminated, while the winners must eliminate 2 more teams. And the team that wins the third and final event wins the challenge. And so the first one was called Speed Sticks, where they would have to place 5 sticks onto a rack at the end of the field, and they can sabotage another team by grabbing theirs and taking it back to the other side of the field. And immediately, people were going after Kylan because they know that that man is not with them, and they want him out immediately. And then Michelle was like, "I'm gonna try my best to sabotage him in this as well."
well, she wasn't doing a good job to begin with because she already knew what type of time it was being attached with Kylan. He's not high on their quote unquote alliance list. So it wasn't even an advantage for Kylan to begin with. Like being paired with Michelle, you would think that it would be an advantage, but it wasn't for him. And Michelle was like, well, it is what it is. I'd rather be Kylan than myself be sacrificed, which is fine. But I mean, Michelle was just putting on such a show and screaming to everyone and all this other stuff. And it's like, girl, you don't really care. Like you're playing the game how you've been playing the game. And it's just, it is what it is with Kylan. I just think that with Emmanuel and Berna starting to sabotage people, sabotage Nerys and Horacio, sabotage Kylan, of course. Like, Emmanuel has been stepping up and playing his game, essentially. I don't think it has to do with anything of an alliance, more of him trying to just prove to himself that he can get to a final and also get out the better players that he knows can have the upper advantage of to him in a final. So he's doing his best. We're trying to get Kylan out. We're trying to get Horacio out, which is understandable. But I just think that this whole alliance is getting in the way of them playing the game. And once we see them beating out people and trying to choose teams to go with them, it's like, all right, now you gotta stand on what y'all been talking about this whole time, which none of y'all do. So for the 3 team picking, not picking Ed and Colleen, or picking James and Melissa, it's like it's no surprise. Like James and Melissa are the only 2 UK numbers. I feel like production knew what they were doing with putting these teams together to begin with having Nerys and Horacio together, and James and Melissa being the only 2 UK people that are really solid together, besides Zara. So I just think that them being out first, it's not surprising. Like it is what it is. Ed, like I said last week, Ed is just hanging along by his stringy haired head as much as he can. Okay, baby's not doing nothing. Like he's there, like he's in challenges, like he's in it, but he doesn't stand out. And it's worse for you to not stand out than for you to just be there, to be honest, in my eyes.
Yeah, he's just coasting because he's in the mix of the quote unquote US alliance. So he's just there and rolling with the team. But at some point, I hate that we still have this alliance at this point because really only 2 people who are quote unquote, well, Melissa as well, but 3 people who are in the UK thing. When who are they going to swing? They have nobody else because everybody else by proxy is part of the US group. They're just at the bottom. So it's still just weird. Like, oh, people are like so trying to go after UK people when it's really only 3 people who don't have any sway. Granted, the only person that most of the US group would save would probably be Zara. And then James only has Mariah. And then Melissa's just Melissa by herself. So it's this alliance thing at this point is stupid. And I keep saying it every episode. It's stupid because they don't have numbers. Granted, everybody in the UK that they had were mostly friends, but also pickpocketing and other people's stuff. At this point, that's not the case. So this alliance thing is done. It's dead. But like we said, it is what it is at this point with how the season's going, and if people are not smart. In event 2, this was one that Mariah and Jay struggled in, which was called Power Sticks, where they had to pull a sled between 2 ends of the field and roll one heavy stick onto the sled each time they reached the other end until they collected all 5 sticks and crossed the finish line. With Mariah and Jay being as strong as they were, I was very shocked to hear that they struggled like that.
I don't know if I was more shocked at Mariah or maybe Jay. I think probably Jay, to be honest, because Jay's been popping shit this whole season about how he's basically the strongest man in the house, and he, has all the pull, and he's that one. But clearly, you wasn't the 1, 2, 3 order for, because you couldn't even pull the sled with Mariah, who we seen last season. Mariah struggle with this kind of thing, like with her and Casey going back to back in that. I think it was a challenge or a final, whatever it was with her and Casey. Like Mariah showed like she was having difficulty with her endurance to begin with. But I do think that it's weird that the two of them together couldn't even pull the sled, and that Michelle really had to give Jay motivation because he was honestly going to quit, which is like, I mean, I'm not surprised at anything I see anymore on the show, but I just think that it's funny that Jay's been promoting himself as the number 1 guy in the house and trying to be the top dog, and you can't even finish a 2-part in a relay. Like, this is not even really anything to sneeze at. Like, it's not nothing that's like super crazy where it's like, oh my gosh, like I can't do this. So the fact that you wanted to quit and you got Michelle yelling at you to continue on, I mean, this is the crop of people that we're dealing with here. But again, 3 people are better than 2. And Asaf, Raven, and Zara pulled it out in the end. And also Berna and Emmanuel, which was surprising because Berna did have an injury. She said that she hurt her groin, and she was having difficulty with, pulling and basically extenuating her groin this whole time and using that part of her body. But she put her mental over her physical. She got it done with Emmanuel. So it is what it is with that one.
Yeah, and also Horacio was carrying him and Reese because Reese was barely carrying that sled, and it was just him wheeling that sled back and forth, mostly by himself. She had on the side, but it was really just Horacio. But they were mostly really neck and neck with the trio at one point in that event, but they just didn't get over the hump because 3 is better than 2. And then in event 3, well, after that event, they knocked out Horacio and Reese and Corey and Olivia. I'd be forgetting about Corey now, which is hilarious. But anyways, in event 3, that one is the pickup sticks, where the teams must use a pile to hook and transfer 7 3-dimensional puzzle pieces to the end of the field, and one at a time. You have to do that before using them to solve a puzzle. And the trio was smoking it until like the very end. Like they were very neck and neck at one point when they were doing the puzzle, but then Berna decided to like snatch theirs down and try and redo it. But all the while when they were redoing it, the trio finished quick. But the trio also took a bit to try to figure it out. And I'm like, y'all got 3 brains. Y'all can use it better and be quicker than this. But they weren't quicker, but they still got it done. And they end up winning.
Yeah, I think that for that final part of the leg, them trying to have two people on one side and one person on the other side picking up the puzzle pieces, they couldn't really figure it out. And so that's why Emmanuel and Berna got the head start. And honestly, Emmanuel and Berna should have won. But as soon as I seen Emmanuel and Berna set up this puzzle to make a cube, and Emmanuel is looking back and looking to the side, trying to see like how can he get help, I already knew that it was a loss because who are you looking to help? Like at the end of the day, like you try again, you trying to be a top dog in this game. You're trying to say that you should be a champion and all this other stuff, but yet you're looking for help for somebody around you to help you in a puzzle. Like you need to be completing this by yourself. This is an individual challenge. Fuck all the alliance shit. Fuck all the this my number one, number two, all the da da da. This is an individual game you have to win. Nobody else is going to be able to help you at the end of the day. So Emmanuel, clearly puzzles is not his strong suit. We see him lose last season off of a puzzle. In this situation, lose off of a puzzle. Like, come on now. Y'all got to pick it up and use your brain and come back and make your weaknesses your strengths. And there's just no growth with some of these people who come back on the show. This is only Emmanuel's second time. But at the same time, like, bro, you already knew what it was when you signed up. Like what Drake said, you already know what it was when you signed up. Like, don't come in here doing this and then trying to help have other people cheat for you. Tori's not here to scream for you, babe. Like, sorry, but your partner's not here to help you. Nobody else is gonna help you. You need to help yourself.
Yeah. And surprise, surprise, the trio won, obviously. And they decided to they had a hard time actually deciding who to actually put in as a woman to go into elimination because they're like, oh, it's gonna be a guy's day because last week was Women's Week. But TJ flipped it on them and said it's gonna be a Women's Day. And Zara was really trying her hardest to try and not say Melissa's name, but Raven was hell bent on saying Melissa's name, and Asaf was like, I'm here. I'm giving points, but it was really Raven pushing for Melissa going.
Which sucked, and I get Raven's point of view in like Zara felt. And I understood what Zara was saying with how she got a drink thrown in her face. She wants her out. She can't really argue that. But you can argue that. Like Melissa's already been now 2 different times prior to this being her 3rd time. So at the end of the day, Melissa would have been a house vote. She didn't need to be the nomination. Like they could have shook it up at that point, put in whoever they wanted to that they needed at the end of the day, because Zara and Raven, if they weren't safe, would be the first 2 to go in. They probably would have been the house vote and been a nomination if Melissa could have garnered more votes and sympathy from the people in the house, just because Melissa's been through enough. So I just think that Raven's obviously thinking about her argument with Melissa, and Zara is just going along with the vibes. I think Zara needs to step it up in her social game and her political game because she keeps getting stepped over every single week. And it's starting to look like you just there, just going with the wind with people. Like you're probably one of the strongest women left in the house, to be honest. So I feel like she can smoke anybody that's standing around her. So I feel like Zara needs to be more assertive in how she plays socially and politically because they're trying to get her out for a reason. Like they already know what type of time it is with her. She needs to know what type of time it is with herself. And she could have kind of stood her ground a little bit, but she did it. Like you said, Asaf was just playing the middle. And once they picked Melissa, I completely was here for Kylan going off because, bro, you told this girl to her face. And mind you, during the challenge, once Melissa got voted out, Melissa hugged Asaf and was like, remember, we're both parents. And, you know, basically was trying to give him the vibe of don't put me in or whatever happens, you know, just remember me being a part of your numbers. So once that happened, Kylan was like, your wife or your family is going to look back at this and see how you are. Because, I mean, Asaf was bringing up the baby a lot. Like, he bringing up his son every chance he get. He's a father. He's a husband. Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's bringing up his family all the time. that is just like, bro, now you do some shit like this. It's just like you got no real integrity behind you. And I felt Colin. Colin was like, your family's gonna watch this and they're gonna have to see you say this stuff. And Asaf was like, don't talk about my mom. And Colin was like, when did I bring your mother up? And that's the thing. Like, I don't know if Asaf is just stupid or he really wanted to pick a fight, but when did he mention his mother? I have no clue. Jay jumping in the mix talking about you can't say that. Like, Jay, you and your 3 pieces of hair need to mind your business. You already lost very heavily. You can't even pull a sled. Like, move along, bro. Like, I just feel like these people are just playing around. And I felt Colin and him standing up for his white Nubian queen, honestly. Because that's what he did, essentially. Like, Colin and Melissa are the only 2 people that have each other's back, right? So I feel like Colin was just riding hard for Melissa, which he should. But it's like, also, Colin, you could kind of ease up a little bit. Like, get off Melissa's dick. Like, bro.
I appreciate him for doing that. And he didn't say nothing about Asaf's mother. He just said, this is how you treat someone who's a mother who you've been talking to about being parents this whole time. I'm like, did y'all not hear what Colin just said? He did not say nothing about Asaf's mother. He was talking about Melissa. Not him, not her, not his mother. So dial it back. Asaf is just looking for another moment. And I'm just like, sir, be for real. You want to be mad because you don't like Kylan. I get it. But that man is speaking facts, and that man is summoning the spirit of his exit on Big Brother 23. Because when he was talking about Xavier's nephew, that was the same energy that he had this. So I'm like, you're gonna go after somebody that's been nice to you this whole time, bonded you about being a parent, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna throw it to the wolves. You have no allegiance to anybody aside from yourself and Jay, quote unquote. But that's it. Like, you're hiding behind what your group said, what Raven did, and then you're being aligned with Jay. That's really it. And you're using, that's why I said he reminded me of Corey, of how Corey was like using Melissa and Big T for information and also while bonding with them in a meaningful way. That's what Asaf has been doing this whole time. And rightfully so, he got caught out for it because that's stupid. That's not how you play this game. And that's why you're a loser. A big fat loser. I'm sorry. I keep saying it every episode that they're losers, but they are. And they keep showing it every single episode.
Not facts. We both been saying it. And I just feel like don't say one thing and do something else. And especially when it comes to something so sensitive as family, as kids. Because I feel like whenever somebody gets into an argument, don't break up my kids, don't break up my child, da, da, da. Like, people always get into that bag. I get it. But don't use that in one aspect and say, like, I understand your plight, like, I'm a parent, whatever. And then the next minute turn around and don't understand why that person is offended that you would choose them, especially for a third time. Like, this is not the first time, it's not the second time. It's literally the third time. Like, you voted for her prior. You said her name prior. This is not something that's coming up out of nowhere. So the fact is, like, Asaf got called out and he got mad at it. Misheard what Colin said, probably on purpose because he was trying to deflect off of the fact that he did have that conversation with Melissa from day one in front of his alliance. And, trying to use that as just trying to deflect. And it's just so draining at the end of the day. I kind of felt sorry for Melissa, but then again, I didn't because Melissa has put herself in the situation. If she would have thrown the drink at Raven, I'm not 100% sure if she would be that vote. I think Zara could have probably talked her way into voting for somebody else. She may have still been the house vote just because they've been running with this alliance crap, but she probably could have avoided it that moment in being that vote. So Melissa just got to eat it at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so it's really time for Pauline's name to go in. That's the next name that pops up because she's on the outskirts of the big alliance, but she's in the alliance. But Michelle, Mariah, and Zara are talking like that. Colleen's gonna use their vote to go in because yes, she's been voting with them, but she isn't for them. Well, she is for them, but she's like at the end of the road.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, if Raven and Zara weren't safe, they would have been next up. I feel like Mariah first took the first step last week in bringing up Colleen's name and pointing out that Colleen is just there coasting. Like, yes, she's just a number, but at the end of the day, your numbers are going to start dwindling. You're going to need to start picking people off, and Colleen is the easiest target. Like, Colleen is one of them ones just like, why is she still here? Like, yeah, I really don't necessarily need her. And she may come in and just start chopping all y'all down. It just depends on what the challenge is and if she has the opportunity to. So I just think that Colleen was the smart number. I think them trying to flip it on Mariah is where I start getting a little annoyed with this cast, just because Mariah essentially is playing her own game, which at the end of the day, everybody should. This whole, we need to know where she stands, we need to know where her alliance lays. It's just like Mariah has found someone, be it a short amount of time. She's changed her trajectory in how she wants to play the game. James is someone she wants to protect and part of her now alliance. So it's going to be two sides going against each other. And it's like, y'all want to pick on somebody just because they're not going with you. Well, what if she was going with you? Now, what are you going to do when you get to a point where y'all going to have to start picking off each other? That's where y'all losing me with this whole concept of having an alliance and trying to keep everybody together. And we need all the votes that we can get. Like, y'all are not starting to have the numbers. Like, make it make sense. Mariah did what she needed to do for herself. She's obviously getting close to Zara. She has James. Honestly, for Mariah's sake, James is a liability. Like, James can't even run 2 feet without huffing and puffing. We've seen it in his elimination in the arena. So I just think that Mariah holding on to James is kind of questionable. But do your thing. That's your man, or that's your boo thing. Whatever. Like, I get it. The Zara aspect is probably where it's the most threat to everyone else's game around her, because if Mariah and Zara really team up, they can probably start knocking people down. The Olivias, the Narices, Michelle. Like, they can probably start knocking those stronger women, the top people. I'm putting this in quotation marks because top is very subjective here, but they can start knocking off them top people off. And so I think that that's probably more of the threat of what they're thinking. Like, James, yeah, all that stuff is fine, but I think her and Zara being more linked together is where it threatens everybody else's game. And I'm okay with it. Like, somebody needs to shake the table at this point. Y'all are very dry.
Yeah, cause I'm like, also, who is of that core? Who is the number one? Everybody has a number one at the end of the day, and in that core, you can't have 3 number ones. Y'all all can't get to the final together at this point, because okay, Maurice, who's her number one? Horacio, most at this point, obviously. But of the girls, I don't know. It's probably it's Michelle. Olivia, who's her number one? I don't know, because she's
probably
friends with everybody.
Horacio too. Like, I feel like it's probably Horacio too, which is okay. That's a man, but what woman is who is your competition at the end of the day? Y'all not running the final together. Y'all not winning the money together. Like, you're gonna have to beat a man too at the end of the day. Like, let's all think about this clearly. This is not a partnership here. This is a one-man show. One man, one band, one sound. So one person is winning this. Like, what are y'all even talking about? This whole thing is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm like, and Mariah can do what she wants. Like, this is what Mariah's playing her own game. Emmanuel's playing his own game. Emmanuel's like at the outskirts of the alliance too, but he's also, in a sense, untouchable because nobody's paying attention to him. He's just there. So he can coast and he's playing his own game. Ed's just following the vibe, but he's on the cusp of getting cut. Corey's also on the cusp of getting cut. That man's not in the core, but he's only attached. He's only somewhat in the core because he's attached to Michelle and Jay, but mainly Michelle. So, but Michelle's number one of the guys is Jay. She can cut Corey with ease because it's Jay, and Michelle is friends with everybody. So it's like this core is not thinking wholeheartedly, okay, yes, we want to get to the end together, but can I beat people in this core? No. So it's just a matter of whoever wins first and takes a shot first at this point. But I don't even think people would actually take a serious shot because they're not serious.
Right. Like Mariah exposed last week when she wanted to pick Colleen and everyone was so against it because they felt like Big T was more of a quote unquote threat, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I just think that if you don't win and you're not safe and you're not somebody who's probably more outspoken in this quote unquote alliance, you're first to go. So Colleen, we haven't really heard a peep about her except for her crying about Emmanuel. It is what it is. She gets the nominated vote. And I feel like people were trying to like step around it because everyone was so on board with probably voting for Mariah because they felt so threatened by Mariah having James as her number one. So everyone was kind of tiptoeing around like, yeah, maybe we should go with Mariah, da da da. But when it came down time to it, everyone was like, I hear you, Colleen, but I'm gonna vote for you anyway. And we just gonna keep in mind that, you know, Mariah could be next because Mariah is not aligned with us. Whatever. I think one person took a shot at Mariah and then one person took a shot at Berna. I think it was Maurice. It's like, why are you even voting for Berna? Like Berna is probably somebody I would try to take to the final just because she's injured. Like I'm using that against her. That's an obvious threat. You know what I mean? Like, or an obvious benefit for me if I'm going to a final. Like you're
Yeah.
injured, you can only do so much. I'll probably use that against you.
And then I just realized Raven is still there. She's been in the sand the most this season, and she's won the most of the girls this season. And they still want to cut her because she's not in the core of the alliance. I'm gonna leave that there because she's been playing even though like she's not in the mix of that alliance as much, she's won the most of that group, and she's shown that she's a strong player. So I've been trying to pass her to actually be smart and make a move. Granted, the move against Melissa is a personal one, but when some sense comes to her, she made us make a move. And when things fall apart, they fall apart. But that's the name of the game. But we go to the arena, and with Colleen being the vote for the house and Melissa being the automated nominated vote, they wait to see who comes out of the champs for the chaos elimination. And TJ teased that this next champion that was coming in was one of the greatest to ever play. And like you mentioned at the top of the show, she's 1-6 in finals. She has a good elimination record. I'm not gonna hold you. And she has a couple daily wins. But she's not one of the greatest players that we've seen in this game.
Yeah, I'm not jacking that just because what does that mean? That means you had the most time on your hands. You had the most opportunities to come in this game and really to smoke people. Like you wanted to talk all this big dog stuff like she really tries to portray. She just won last season. We just seen her win, or 2 seasons ago, because we saw her on the USA or the World Championship show, whatever it's called. So you just won one. Like you just won one. And we done seen you for about 10 years because that includes Are You the One where we've seen her. Even though it's not a competition show, that's the show that she was introduced to us on. So we've seen you for a minute on TV and you've just won in the year 2022. Come on now. Like, pack it up. Not my GOAT. Never has been. Never will be. I just think she got too much time on her hands. This is her career. Great for you. Congratulations. But come on, I'm not jacking the stats. I don't care about elimination wins and that don't mean shit. Like you just won one. Like what it matters at for me, because this is not sports. This is not. I'm not Bill Simmons here. I'm not gonna hyperbole this whole thing. This is the fifth sport. At the end of the day, you didn't win. Like you haven't won consistently. You've been in opportunity times to win, and you have not. I'm gonna just call a spade a spade. You won one. Congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. You beat an old ass man and a horse ass face girl. I don't know what to tell you. Like it really. That's what you want to hang your hat on. If that's what you want to hang your hat on, that's cool. That's cool. But again, like y'all are not serious with this. I did the TJ's whole speech about it. It was just like, come on, bro. Like I get y'all trying to hype her up, but I feel like there's better people who are coming in to the show that have shown more. And so that's where I'm with it. Cause I'm like, this is she's light work. She's very much light work.
Like literally after she did 30-30, she came back the season that Cam debuted on, lost to Cam in elimination, and then came back again and continues to like have a decent record. But I'm like, girl, you don't move the needle. You ride with the wave. That's all you do in your game. And I'm like, sure, yeah, congrats on the one win. But you lost against the jury actors. But you won against the jury actors. But you're not smart strategically. And you're not great. You're carried at one point. So that's that. But it was just very also funny to see that people were cheering for her when she came in. Brenda was like, thank God. When at the sight of seeing Tori, she was like, thank God. And I get Tori is brute. And she's strong. But y'all got a Tori possibly going against Melissa, who is small. And you have Colleen, who is small, but also has a little bit of some muscle in her. But you have her going against one of them. Make it make sense.
I mean, they didn't know who it was, but we've seen them time and time again clap and be overjoyed to whoever walks in the door. So that's not surprising. They all love Tori at the end of the day because Tori is a part of this vacation alliance that just won't leave us alone. So that's who they want to attach themselves to. That's who they want to be. That's who they think they are at the end of the day. Some of these people that are walking around the house. So I get it. You're overjoyed, clapped up, excited. I don't know why y'all happy that y'all possibly losing another 10K, but again, I don't expect much from this cast of people. And yeah, let's just get into it. I'm sorry for Melissa for even having to go in. Like Melissa has skated for the amount of times that her name has been called down. Every single time she has gone back up and has not had the opportunity to play. So Tori pulls her card. They got to play whatever the name of the game is. I don't know. Some underground puzzle game.
Underwater.
That's what I got. Under tank. I don't know.
It was called Going Under, and they had to collect puzzle pieces while they were submerged underwater in the tank, and arrange them to match an answer key, which can only be assessed by pulling a rope to lower the board into the tank, and the first person to finish won. Melissa told us early in the episode, told Kylan that she did not like puzzles. Production was like, oh, she don't like puzzles, and we're gonna give her a puzzle. And she can't pick up puzzle pieces in water. She can't just immerse herself. So what they did, put her in a water tank, had to do a puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, which obviously they want the mercenaries to win just because it'll be better for their show. So completely understand. Put somebody in their weakness and try to see how they do against it. But I do think that Melissa had a good show, and she was panicking at times, going underwater, overthinking it. And early on in the season, we've seen how she was in the underwater challenge, and she was panicking there too. So this is not a surprise for Melissa, but I do want to give her credit because at some point she got herself together and started picking up multiple pieces, putting them up at the top so that she can have the option to pull down the puzzle lever, see what it is, and kind of go from there. And Tori got a check. And when she checked, I'm like, Tori's known for saying check prematurely. So when she got that premature check and it was a no, I'm like, all right, Melissa has an opportunity. And I'm rooting for Melissa just because I don't want to see her leave in that way because of how everything has played out with everyone in the house just going against her for no reason because she's not a US person and she's not in their quote unquote alliance. Like that's ultimately the reason why everyone hates her except for Raven. So I was rooting for Melissa to get that opportunity. And then somehow, some way, Tori had another chance to see it. And shout out to Kylan for being supportive of Melissa as well. But Melissa ended up taking the L. She was so close though. Like she almost had the opportunity to win, but Tori came out with the win. It's just like, whatever, girl.
Yeah. Melissa made good progress, I would say. She did struggle. She did pick herself up, and like you said, she was almost there. Just couldn't get to it. Um, Tori won, but before it even started the elimination, why this woman gonna say, Mariah? Oh my goodness, he's heartbroken. Why? Why are you in someone else's business when you did the same thing on the show?
Listen, we we know Tori's history with men on the show. We don't need to go down a rabbit hole of it. Like we really don't. But just know we saw your ex call you a terrorist on national TV. I just want to mention that because you can't come in here talking about somebody's heartbroken and somebody who you was engaged to, going to spend the rest of your life with, called you a terrorist on TV.
Goodbye. Good night. We're going to get into the tweet from this episode. I'm just gonna slide right in to the first tweet. Imagine being a serial cheater calling out another girl over quote unquote cheating on a man child in his 40s that has been cheating on all of his girlfriends for the past 2 decades on reality TV. Tori being hypocritical as usual. That's
It's
it.
exactly that's yeah. It's nothing else to say. That's the exact sentiments of how we think of Tori.
Yeah. The next tweet. Uh, this comes from Derek C, who is a challenge alumni, River alum. He tweeted, "Can someone take Asaf out already on a challenge 39? He's way better on RuPaul's Drag Race when he's just a pretty face and nice body with no voice."
Clock it, boo. Clock it. Okay. Clock it. Because that's exactly what it is. We don't care about Asaf. Like, he shouldn't have gotten the call back. We would much rather see you with your mouth closed. Like, keep it a buck. We don't want to hear nothing you got to say. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Next week comes from friend of the show, Grant. Olivia popping that hot shit about Mariah, who is single and can do whatever she wants. Meanwhile, she over here being the other woman with Emmanuel. LOL, the irony.
Listen, I would much rather be in my own situation, making my own decisions with one person than being a sister wife openly with somebody who has a relationship. Like let's not compare apples to oranges here. Like you can't try to act like your shit don't stink and it's really smelling like Staten Island. Like it's garbage. Come on now, please.
Yeah. Um. Oh, okay. This is some background on from conversation that the court had about Mariah. This is what Nerese tweeted. Actually, the entire conversation about Mariah wasn't only because she wanted to save Zara, but because Olivia came in the room and told us all that Mariah said she wanted to get the strong players out, which meant people in our alliance. Mariah replied and said, which was a lie. I told her we should be getting Colleen out and not Big T, which was shown.
I mean, again, I'm not surprised Olivia moving how she's moving. she's shown herself. She's shown her cards. Like, it is what it is with Olivia. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And the last tweet, I can give credit when it's due. Tori is good, but given that this lineup includes Jordan, CT, Darrell, Laurel, and Cara Maria, I think this line about one of the greatest players, someone might have switched TJ's cue cards by accident. Mic drop.
Yeah, they might have switched it, but I feel like TJ be adding his own salt to it. Like, TJ knows what's coming up, so TJ be gassing it a little bit, adding his own biases to it, and he feels that way about Tori because he's seen Tori for the damn 10 years. So, I mean, honestly, like, he's so attached to Tori, like, he's so accustomed to seeing her at every chance he gets of hosting the show. I mean, I'm not surprised that he feels so strongly about her, but yeah, we've seen her gameplay. Enough of her. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Duel Alliance Pod. You can follow Megan at Literally Megs. You can follow myself at Ace_S5. And if you're listening, you can watch this on YouTube at Duel Alliance Podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Do all that stuff. Get the algorithm numbers up. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week to discuss more of the challenge battle for a new champion. Peace out.
Bye.